Green Gold, Dark Harvest, a Michoacan novella by Dan Mason. Chapter 1. The Promise of Green Gold. The morning sun, a benevolent eye, peeked over the Sierra Madre Occidental, painting the sky above Michoacan in hues of rose and tangerine. Mateo Vargas stood on the small porch of his family's modest home, breathing in the crisp air, thick with the scent of damp earth and the subtle waxy aroma of ripening avocados. His gaze swept across the undulating green sea of his orchard, hundreds of trees laden with the promise of green gold. For generations, the Vargas family had tilled this land, corn, beans, and a few cattle. But in the last 2 decades, everything had shifted. The world, it seemed, had discovered the avocado, and Michoacan, with its perfect volcanic soil and temperate climate, had become its heart. Mateo, barely 30, remembered his grandfather, Don Esteban, initially skeptical of abandoning traditional crops for a single fruit. But the profits had been undeniable, transforming their village, El Porvenir, from a sleepy cluster of adobe homes into a bustling hub. Mateo and his wife, Elena, had poured their lives into these trees. Their hands, calloused and strong, knew every branch, every leaf. Their eldest, little Sophia, would run through the rows, her laughter echoing amongst the broad leaves, dreaming of a future built on the fruit's bounty. "The harvest looks good, Mateo," Elena said, stepping out with 2 steaming mugs of café de olla. Her eyes, usually bright with determination, held a flicker of worry that Mateo had come to recognize. "It does," he replied, taking a grateful sip. "The best in years." But the worry in Elena's eyes wasn't about the weather or pests. It was about the other harvest, the one that came not from the trees, but from the shadows. Chapter 2. The First Shadow. The first whispers had been easy to dismiss, rumors from neighboring villages, stories of protection payments demanded by shadowy figures. El Porvenir, nestled deep in the hills, felt insulated. They had their community, their traditions, and their shared labor. Then came the new trucks. Not the usual battered pickups of the local buyers, but sleek, black SUVs, tinted windows, and men with cold eyes and an air of quiet authority. They appeared at the packing houses first, then at the larger farms. Don Ricardo, the oldest farmer in El Porvenir, a man whose face was a map of Michoacan's history, had warned them. "These cartels," he'd said during a village meeting, his voice raspy with age and experience. "They are no longer just about drugs. They are businessmen. They see the avocado, this green gold, and they want their piece." Mateo had listened, but the full weight of Don Ricardo's words hadn't settled until the day they came to his farm. It was mid-morning, the sun high, when a black SUV pulled up to the edge of his orchard. 2 men, built like oxen, emerged. One, with a scar bisecting his eyebrow, stepped forward. He introduced himself calmly as El Cuervo. His voice was smooth, almost polite, but his eyes held no warmth. "Señor Vargas," El Cuervo began, "we understand you have a fine harvest this season. We are here to ensure its safe passage to market. For a small fee, of course." Mateo's heart hammered against his ribs. "A fee?" "For your protection," El Cuervo clarified, a faint smile playing on his lips. "From, shall we say, unforeseen difficulties. Others are already contributing. It is for the good of the community, for stability." He named a figure, a monthly sum that made Mateo's stomach clench. It was a significant portion of his projected earnings. Mateo tried to argue, to explain his family's history, their hard work. El Cuervo listened patiently, then simply repeated the amount. "We will return next week for our first collection. It would be unwise to be unprepared." As the SUV drove away, leaving a plume of dust, Mateo felt a cold dread settle over him. The sun still shone, the avocados still hung heavy on the branches, but the light had